Welcome into PrepAquatics.com. I'm Skylar King. As always, you can email me, Skylar@PrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter, @SkylarPrep. Talking after kind of the last weekend of what I kind of call the preseason in girls swimming. I was at West Chicago. It was one of the only true invitationals that is in a championship meet format. These first couple weeks, you have a lot of meets that are relay meets or some type of interesting format in one shape or another. And from this point forward, we really don't get that the rest of the season, which, again, for me, it is really helpful when you're trying to worry about things like putting together revised mid-season predictions and things like that. I did want to go back a bit because I forgot. I saw this meet and it just kind of slipped my mind when I was doing the recording last week. And I appreciate Stevens head coach Art Casements for passing along the results. I like paper results, quite frankly. I'm old school in that way, and so having a PDF to me is always better than having to go through Meet Mobile, but that's probably just me. They hosted a tri-meet that they've been hosting for a couple years in a row now with New Trier and Ignatius. Ignatius is definitely down compared to where they were last year, but New Trier, in spite of what we talked about at the beginning of the year and what they've lost, has still been swimming very well, and this meet was no exception for them in Stevenson, and which really shapes up as, teams, when they look at each other, they probably say, like, I might have to beat this team to win a trophy. New Trier could be saying that about Stevenson, and Stevenson could be saying that about New Trier, potentially, depending on how everything else shakes out. But to go over this, 2 146 medleys, you're not going to find better than that, really. During the season, 146.90 Stevenson, 146.95. New Trier, unfortunately, we don't have splits, but I mean, those are two legit times, and these are two schools I think you can count on putting together 3 good relays. New Trier, I think, would be the bigger question mark in that, because historically, New Trier likes to put their best kids in 2 individual events and sort of sacrifice whatever the third relay would be. Not that it's going to be bad, but just that it might be questionable in terms of is it going to be top 6. Now, with the 2 extra spots this year, it might be even more of an acceptable thing to kind of have a third relay that's a little weaker without your stars. And so it'll be interesting to see how their lineup plays out, obviously. 200 free, Aria Grossenbach, 155.0, Sophia Berger, 157.1, Annika Donovan, 157.2. That was a Stevenson 123 to kind of show you the depth that this program has. And they did something similar in the IM, even though Elise Newlands did get second. Shay Donovan, 208.6, Elise Newlands, 208.9 for New Trier, but then Stevenson gets third with Claire Wang, 210.5. 210 and a 208, I mean, both those kids should score when you think about the end of the year and those extra 4 spots. The 50 was definitely one of the, if not the weakest race at this meet. Maeve O'Connell, 24.4, wins it. I'm yet to see a 23 in person this year, flat start, and so it's which is interesting because the 50 is usually a race that it is never weak, because you always have people that want to swim the 50, even if maybe they shouldn't, and that usually leads there to be a lot of top times in the 50. But O'Connell, 24.4, Maya Arroyo, 24.50, Marin Shimkus, 24.56, Stephanie Karova, for Stevenson, 24.63, Karina Cantero, Stevenson, 24.98, Lene Florin for Stevenson, 25.0. And so that's still incredible depth. Megan Marquardt, 25.1 for New Trier. So 7 girls, 25.1 or better. It's obviously still the best I've seen this year. But I do think it's interesting when you look at the times in some of these other races and how much stronger they seem, the winning times, than the 50. Zara Bolton, New Trier, 57.1 in the fly. Arroyo, 57.6. We know Arroyo's been top 6 in previous years. Linnea Florin, 57.6 for Stevenson. Claire Wayne, 58.7. And so, again, all times that you would think are in line to potentially score. Maeve O'Donnell, 52.9, and Arya Grossenbach, 52.9, and the 100, 9.1, 9.4. Mary Shimkus, 53.8. But again, only 3 girls to break 54 compared to some of these other races. I think it is kind of weak, which I don't know if that means. And that's not a commentary on these teams as much as it is, I think, statewide. I haven't seen many 52s this year in the 100 free. And so we might be seeing a small step back across the board in those free relays. It seems like the medley is probably the best relay statewide this year, which to me is unusual. If for nothing else, then it should be easier to find 4 freestylers than it is to find one of each stroke. It's especially, breaststroke is generally kind of a specialization stroke, but the medley times have really been outstanding. 500 free, Annika Donovan, 5.097, Shay Donovan, 5.11.0. Anybody under 5'10 in season, to me, is a stone cold lock to score. And 5.11.0, I think it's right in there. Jilly McNamara, 5.16, but I think based on what she had done last year, I think Jilly McNamara has definitely got a shot to score. 200 relay, 137.90, Stevenson, 138.1, New Trier, and then New Trier's B, 139.4. Obviously, New Trier's always got uber depth. Jilly McNamara, 58.6. Now, there's a time that I would definitely expect to result in a scoring swim, which shouldn't be a surprise for McNamara. Megan Marquardt, 59.6. The breaststroke. The breaststroke, again, is a race that still does look pretty tough and deep. I don't think the top end is going to be as good as it was last year when we had all those 102s. But in this meet, we had 5 107s. Nellie Sandor Stevenson, 7.1. Elise Newlands and Lily Moore for New Trier, 7.4. Karova, 7.6. And Stella Tomlinson, 7.8. So that's 5 girls just from Stevenson, New Trier, all sub 108. And so the breaststroke depth, I think, will still be tremendous. 400 relay. This was another tremendous showdown like the medley. Stevenson 31.5, New Trier 31.8. These are 2 relays at 31 that hardly are going to have to drop time at all to score. I think it's true about the medleys as well. And so that's really impressive to see. They also had B relays go 37 and 38. Ignatius just doesn't have the horses they did last year. Obviously, Julietta Tracy being the number 1 missing piece. And their A relay goes 340. But I do think that between Arroyo and McNamara, they're going to pick up some individual points, and they'll probably find a way to score at least 1 relay. I was at the West Chicago Invitational, as I said, which, again, I'm trying to see, and I'm going to continue this quest, at least for 1 more week with the Rosary Invitational this weekend. But I'm trying to see Rosary at full strength. I'm 0 for 2. Olivia Moore was back for the beads, but still no Elizabeth Naraki and no Becky Rentz. In spite of that, Rosary, 48.7 wins the medley. They were strong all day long, as was West Chicago, at their home invite. They're just short sprinters behind Conklin. West Chicago is, and I think it's going to bite them at the end of the year. Amelia Murphy, 157.1. Annabelle Naraki, 157.15. Audrey Lindstrom, 158.4 in the 200. The IM, which is another race that, from what I've seen, is looking kind of weak. When I saw St. Charles North the one time, Izzy View did not swim the IM. And so I think it's unusual for me to have not seen someone break 10 in the IM at this point in the season. Ella Jean Kelly from LT 213.2 wins the IM. Again, if Naraki was here, she certainly would have been in contention, if not a clear win in the IM, even though 9 would have been really quick for her. Claire Conklin, 24-1-2, and this goes back to me not seeing it. I mean, Conklin, I would think would be a candidate as someone that would potentially break 24. Ella Jean Kelly jumps out of the IM, which she won, to be the one of only 2 girls to break 25 in the 50. That's a very unusual double that I can't recall off the top of my head seeing that before. Boys over girls, IM and 50. At an invitational. I've probably seen it at a dual meet when people are screwing around with lineups if it's not very competitive, but I think that's very unusual. Chloe Diner, 57-0, dominant in her swims. Katie Gressick, unfortunately, was not there for Oswego, but Chloe Diner, and I tweeted out something similar to this with the 2 races that she swam. I mean, she's someone that could probably score in over half the individual races. She's just so versatile. Ariana Nakula, 58-6. Again, I went on about Nakula last week. This wasn't even her best time of the year, but I've been really impressed with what I've seen from her. Mentioned Olivia Moorback, 52-5 in the 100. I mean, she's legit. She's probably going to be top 8 in the 100 free. And the Rosary just really looks like they've got every race covered. Amelia Murphy, 54-1, was second. Annabelle Naraki, 54-2, was third. Rosary's just been too thin without the older Naraki, Elizabeth, and Becky Rentz to really put the full lineup together relay-wise and everything. Chloe Diner, 5070, easy win in the 100. Her teammate, Lauren Swiderski, 513.7, was second. Again, 2 races that Chloe Diner will almost certainly not swim at the state meet, but still just dominant performances. The free relays were fun races. LT 138.87, West Chicago 138.90. Claire Conklin goes third in both these relays, gets the lead in the 200 relay and then they get run down in the 200 relay. Again, I think West Chicago is just one sprint freestyler short from just being a lock top 8 in these sprint relays. Rosalie only goes 41.6, but Olivia Moore's not in here. Annabelle Naraki is, and she could potentially make a free relay, but I would bet on the 400 over the 200. Allie Casanova's 24.5, so I mean she could certainly be on this relay with Rentz and Olivia Moore potentially. I mean, and Olivia Moore might be kind of their swing person. I think 100 free, and you're not going to do it in an in-season invite typically with someone as good as her, put her in 3 relays, but I think state meet wise, 100 free 3 relays makes a lot of sense for Olivia Moore. And then Rentz and Naraki can swim their 2 individual races, and they can nickel and dime with some of the, Nakula could go fly 3 relays if she's able to make both free relays. I think even though you could definitely score points with some of these other girls in second individual races, it's more important, as we've seen. I mean, and obviously Rosary's had some bad luck with disqualifications with the medley in recent years, but every year coming into state, the one thing that has kept Rosary from being a true trophy contender is the lack of a third relay. And so that needs to be their primary focus, is how do we put together 3 top 8 relays, and the individual points will take care of themselves. Claire Conklin, 57.9 in the back. Lauren O'Connor, 005. Lauren O'Connor, and I really mean this in the best way, so I hope it's taken that way. Lauren O'Connor is like a boys swimmer in that she's really, year in, year out, one of the best taper swimmers in the state. And I don't know if other people in the community recognize her as such, because generally speaking, boys are going to drop more than girls, and because there's more muscle there to recover at taper time. But Lauren O'Connor is never flashy in season, But then you look up at the state meet, and there she is in the top 6 of the backstroke. And so she could potentially contend for top 8 in the butterfly this year. And so I really enjoy watching her compete because she knows that she's probably going to get beat by some girls who she's going to beat at the end of the year. And as someone who is a big believer in the end of the year is really what matters, I really appreciate and have appreciated her throughout her career at Rosary to this point. Breaststroke, Olivia Moore, 106.1, and this kind of goes back to my 3 relay pitch for Olivia Moore. The breaststroke's a terrible race to swim for someone that you want on a free relay. We talked about 52.5 in the 100. I mean, I want that on my 400 relay. I want it less on my 400 relay if I'm not sure what heat I'm going to be in the 400 relay, and I'm not sure what heat my breaststroker is going to be in of the breaststroke. Would she score in the breaststroke? Yeah, I think she absolutely would. Would she be top 6 or top 8? I think that's a tough call. And when you already have a scoring breaststroker on your roster, I wouldn't want to risk catching like a 10th place in the breaststroke and then getting 7th in a relay that she could have been in, or 9th. I correctly made the bottom 8 reference with the individual and then incorrectly did it in the relay. And so that is the primary reason why I'd like to see her in all 3 relays. The 400 relay you mentioned, this was an even better race because Rosary was in the mix here. West Chicago actually hangs on 335.73, LT 335.74, Rosary 335.92. And I mean, Olivia Moore 52.1 on the anchor. I mean, that's a fine in-season time, but the fact that she was 52.5 means I think she's probably capable of going 51 if she was rested. So it'll be fascinating to see what it looks like this weekend at the Rosary Invitational. LT will be there again. We'll get a smattering of the teams from around the Naperville area, generally Nequa, Naperville North. But for me, it's really a scouting trip to see what Rosary's lineup looks like. I'll be very shocked if Rosary is not at full strength because it is their home invitational. Historically, ever since I've been covering swimming, this has sort of been the early season showcase for the beads. And I hope that's the case again because I'm really interested to see what Coach Glenn Brown does with this team, especially if Rents and Naraki are in the fold this weekend. As always, you can email me, SkylerPrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter, @SkylerPrep. If you can go to a meet this weekend, there's a lot of good ones. Other than this Rosary meet that I'm going to attend, Lake County, where there's always fast swimming, is going to be going on at Libertyville. Stevenson is the headliner there. And then Hinsdale Central and New Trier are swimming a dual meet at NHC, which should be one of the faster dual meets of the year as well. We'll be back next week talking about all this and getting ready for October here at PrepAquatics.com.